that they are supposed to do, expand their business. For all these purposes, we go to the capital market. So what we, one second, what we have under the capital market is again, one second. What we have under the capital market is again two major classification: long-term loan market and securities market. Long-term loan market is nothing but where companies or businesses are taking loans from banks, financial institutions, and other lenders. So that is what we call as loan market. Now we come to what is securities market. What are securities? What are securities? Securities are any answers? What are securities? Have you heard this term? So securities refers to marketable instruments. Marketable instruments. They can be bought and sold. They can be bought and sold. They can be transferred from one person to another. Okay, so that is what is a security. Major types of securities are shares and debentures. Regarding them, we will see in a little bit what are shares, what are debentures. We'll see in a little bit as we go. But securities market is the market where companies raise money by issuing securities. Government also raises money by issuing government bonds. That is also a security. Okay, so where companies raise money by issuing shares, by issuing debentures, they are called as securities, and they are called as securities market. When companies issue securities and raise money, and the money flows to the company, and the securities are given to the various investors, it is called as primary market. This is where new issuance of securities happens. Okay. And secondary market is where you can buy and sell the securities. Let us say you have applied now recently, many IPOs are happening. For example, Tata Tech IPO had happened. And I'm just telling you, this is not for any investment advice or anything. Every reference to every company in our discussion, any live thing which is going on, which is only for academic purpose. This is just a disclosure and disclaimer I'm making. But secondary market is where, let us say you have applied for some shares, let us say Tata Technologies IPO, which happened recently. And let us say you have applied for some shares. Where can you sell them? In the stock exchanges, you can sell them. NSE, BSE are there, National Stock Exchange and BSE are there, and you can buy and sell the shares from that particular stock market. When you want to buy shares also, you can buy from the stock market. When you want to sell shares, you can sell shares in the stock market. So that is what we are going to see under secondary market. Primary market is where new issuance of securities happens. People are just now applying and getting the securities. Secondary market is where they will sell the securities and other people can buy the securities from them. So money flows to the company in the primary market only. There are various types of issuances in the primary market, but we will come to that once we see what is a company. Some basics of company and company law we need to know in order to proceed with these concepts. Only then you will understand it in a better manner. Punita ma'am, are there any questions so far?
You may please carry on, ma'am.
Okay. And so now let us talk about some basics of company, because the concept of a company, because the entire securities market, whatever we are going to see, it is mainly relating to companies. What do listed companies do? So in order to understand that, we first need to understand what are the basics of a company. If you are studying your group 1, your module 1, you will already be having all this introduction in your company law paper, but this is for the benefit of all those who are appearing only for group 2. So in that case, you will need to know what are the basics of a company. So what is a company? Company is a form of doing business. So it's a form of doing business. There are various modes of doing business, like sole proprietorship. You would have heard of partnership. You would have heard of one second. You would have heard of LLPs. So like that, various forms of doing business are there. Among them, company is a popular form of doing business. And what makes company different from other categories of doing business? For example, I'll tell you example, then we will see. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, we have received a few questions.
Sure, ma'am.
Like one student is asking, what is IPO?
What is IPO? Once we see the company law basics, we will also discuss what is an IPO. IPO is the very first time a company goes for a public issue. It is the very first time a company issues its securities to the public and takes money from them, and it becomes a listed company. And all these terminologies we will see as we go, but this is the basic meaning of what is an IPO. It is initial public offer. The very first time a company goes for a public issue. For example, right now, recently, today, I think a few days back, the Tata Technologies IPO had ended. The company had asked for money, people had given money. And if you take companies like Flair, the writing instrument company, that company had also recently gone for an IPO. They had asked for some amount of money from the public for setting up factories for manufacturing more pens and other writing instruments. So when the company issues its shares to the public receive the shares, the company gets the money, and the shares will be listed on the stock exchange. That process is called IPO. More on that we will see as we go. Yes, ma'am, can I proceed?
One more question, ma'am, we have
Yes,
received.
ma'am.
One student is asking, what are government bonds?
What are government bonds? Government also is a participant in the primary market, which I told you. So what are government bonds? Government has a lot of expenses. Many infrastructure services they are providing, many companies they are running, and many you would have seen the budget speech. No, these are the programs on which we'll be spending. For that, they will mainly receive the main source of revenue for the government is taxes. So taxes, fines, penalties, all these will be main sources of revenue for the government. But if the revenue falls short of the expenses, expenses are more, revenue is less for the government. In those cases, to budget the deficit, so to bridge the deficit, they will issue bonds to the public. So when they issue bonds to the public, public get the bonds. Government issues the bonds to the public. They will receive some interest based on the periodicity mentioned in the bond, and the government gets the money, uses the money for the various developmental activities and the various expenditure it is focusing on. So that is your government bond, and they are usually long term. When government issues short term securities, no, we call it as treasury bills. When government issues short term securities, we call it as treasury bills. When government issues long term securities, we call it as government bonds. But both are um, of having a debt characteristic, meaning it is like a loan given to the government, and government will be paying interest on that. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Can I
Yes,
proceed?
ma'am, please proceed, ma'am.
Yes. So now coming to what is a company? It's a form of doing business, but it's having a separate legal identity. Whereas a sole proprietor, if you take a sole proprietorship concern, no, the business and the sole proprietor will be treated as one and the same. So whatever loans are taken by the sole proprietorship should be repaid by the sole proprietor himself. So he'll be personally responsible for all the loans. But if we take a partnership firm, the same thing. The partners as well as the partnership firm will be treated as one and the same in the eyes of law. Whatever liabilities, whatever responsibilities, whatever debts are taken by the partnership firm will be the personal liability of the partners also. So if they are not repaying, the partners will be responsible for repaying the loan to the bank or whatever lender. So what happens? What do you mean by personal liabilities? Therefore, those types of entities, their personal assets will go. Their personal assets will be sold off by the bank, and they will get the money back. But let us think in the case of a company. You would have often heard people, you may yourselves be investors in the stock market, or you would have your friends or relatives investing in the stock market. Let us say I buy one share of a particular company, and that company borrows a huge amount of money. Let us say that particular company tomorrow it is not able to repay the money. Will I be responsible for repaying the loan as a shareholder? No, my liability is limited because I am treated as a separate person apart from the company. Shareholders are treated, the owners. Whom do we call as shareholders? Owners of company we will use the term shareholders or members. Both mean the same thing. In 99% of the cases, both mean the same thing. Shareholders are members, and when we say shareholders are members, it means the owners of the company. Shareholders or members are treated as separate from the company. It is not like a partnership firm or a sole proprietorship where the owner and the business is one and the same. Here, the owners are different, company is different, company is treated as a separate person. Company is treated as a separate person having a separate legal identity. Having a separate legal identity. So, company is different, we are different. If company borrows loan, company has to repay, not us. Okay, unless we have borrowed the money, it will not affect us. So, when company is repaying the money, it will affect only the company. So that is the concept of separate legal identity and having a limited liability. More on these concepts you will be learning in your company law paper. So just understand that company is a separate person. So whatever money it is raising, it will enter into contractual agreements with various people and it will raise the money. Now, what other things are there regarding a company? Some basic structure of a company also you should know. Some examples of company we will see and then come to the basic structure of a company. But the most important thing about company you have to know is it's a separate legal person and it's an artificial person created by law. So its life also will be perpetual. Perpetual succession will be there. Continuous existence. Members may come, members may go, but the company goes on forever. So perpetual succession will be there. So this is what we mean by a company. Many companies we know in our day-to-day life, no, we come across various companies. The phones we are having will be manufactured by a company. The shoes we are wearing will be manufactured by a company. For example, we may be wearing Bata shoes. Bata, the brand is owned by Bata India Limited, and we may be using, various phones or two-wheelers or cars. All these are manufactured by companies. For example, Tata Motors Limited makes the Tata cars. TVS Motors Limited makes the TVS scooters. We are using various other services. For example, Swiggy, Zomato, all these are companies. Zomato Limited is a company. So we have various types of companies. For example, Zomato Limited, Infosys Limited. These are all very popular, no? So I'm just taking the names. So Tata Consultancy Services Limited, TCS, and Reliance Industries Limited. So various types of companies are there, and you would have seen some companies' name ending with private limited. For example, you have many companies. 90% of the companies in India are private limited companies only. Especially when foreign companies are setting up their business here, no, they usually set it up as a private company. And when people are starting their business as a company, in the starting stage, it is usually a private limited. For example, Zomato also used to be a private limited company in the beginning. Infosys used to be a private limited company in the beginning. For example, we can say Amazon India Private Limited, something like that. No, there are various 90% of the companies in India are private limited. So, what is the difference between a private limited company and a public limited company? Also, you should know. What is a public company? How do you identify when its name ends with only limited? It's a public company. When its name ends with private limited, it's a private company. So, what is the difference between public company and private company? Public companies can get public funding. They have access to public funding. They have access to public funding. What does it mean? They can issue securities to the general public, take money, use it for their business, and have the general public as the shareholders of the company. These companies are much more strictly regulated than private companies. So, public companies have the option to go for a public issue. IPO and all, only public companies can go. Private companies cannot go. So, that is the main difference you should note regarding what is a public company and what is a private company. And any doubts have arisen, ma'am? Yes.
Ma'am, one question is one student has asked about the perpetual succession. What is the meaning of perpetual succession?
Perpetual succession means the company's life